What's up, Yellow Jacket Nation, and welcome to another episode of Jacket Chats. I'm your host, Bryce Johnson. Today, I am joined by Sylvia and Tim Brown of the Black Hills State Cross Country Program. Sylvia, Tim, how are you today?
Doing good.
Doing well, yeah. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and we'll get right into it. We'll start with this. Why Black Hills State University? What was the draw of Black Hills State for each of you?
So one of my high school teammates at the time, she was on the team here, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to run, but I was texting her about college and athletics and all that, and she's like, hey, do you want to talk to my coach? And then the rest is kind of history.
I wanted to run in college. I knew pretty much more than Syl did, so I knew I wanted to run, so I wanted to go D2 because I knew D1 would kind of eat me up. So I took a tour, basically loved it, wanted to be a teacher. So I knew that would be good here at this college. I just remember being in Coach's office, Coach Foley at the time, and he was like, I'll give you about a month to decide. And I just remember being like, I could tell you right now, I'm coming to BH.
Yeah, when you know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when I was going through the same process. I wasn't as a student athlete, but when I was going through that process and looking at schools, the one that I ended up choosing, it just clicked and it fit right. But, based on what you're saying, it sounds like you both had very different kinds of decision-making processes and recruiting processes, and yet here you are still at the same place, at the same time together.
Yeah, we decided to go to the same college. I mean, we basically spent our whole lives together. I mean, we spent probably mostly 2 months apart, 3 months apart, ever. So we're like, well, why would we change that if we go to a different college? So we're very happy we went to the same one.
That's for sure.
And, of course, you are twins. So what is it like being on the same team, going to school with, and competing alongside your twin?
It's been a lot of fun. I think Timmy kind of calms my nerves on race day, and just even freshman year, I didn't really have the experience of being homesick because it's the family member I hang out with the most is already here.
Yeah, definitely freshman year. I mean, college is a lot, especially that first 2 months coming to college, being a student athlete and all that good stuff. But just having a built-in best friend, basically, she was a floor above me in the dorms. So we would just hang out. We'd go eat together. But yeah, just being on the same team is, I think, awesome. Just seeing, for the most part, usually ladies go first. So it's nice seeing Syl compete really well. And obviously, sometimes just getting emotional just seeing the other twin just running so well. But it's kind of just in my head, at least if she goes first, I'm like, okay, Syl did it. In my head, it's not this impossible thing I'm trying to do. Syl can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome. Now, we'll take a step back. How did you each start running cross country, and what has made you want to continue to run and compete at a high level?
I think in 6th grade, our folks both put us in cross country. We were both homeschooled until high school. So we were going to the junior high, before the junior hires would get out. So we'd go to practice, be waiting. But I think it was some family that our friends, some friends that our family was friends with. They had some kids who were doing cross country. They're older than us, but then they also had kids our age they're going to do cross country. And they're like, man, cross country is such a great thing for these kids. I think you guys should put your kids in cross country. And that's kind of how it started. Over...
I think this is year 11 of running cross country.
11 years ago.
But I think what's kept me with it is just I've met so many great people, and it's just such a great sport where you can push yourself to the limit, and just when you see that big improvement, it's just so exciting, and I love competing. So
yeah, it's definitely just bettering yourself, and just getting to those moments in races where you're like, well, this is kind of what I trained for. I am tough. I am fit. Let's see. I put in all the work. Let's see what I can actually do with it.
That's awesome. And now you're both obviously coached by Coach Brian Medigovich, and he's a really interesting guy. How do you like running for Coach Med?
I love it. I can't say enough good things about him because it was a little stressful, because Coach Foley recruited us, then left after our freshman year, so you never know, who you're going to end up with as a coach, but Med's been great. I think we've just built that really good athlete-coach relationship where I trust him with my life basically. So you can step on the line and be like, Coach has gotten me. he's done everything for me, so I can just go out there and compete.
Yeah, that guy definitely puts his heart and soul into this job, so it's very easy to buy in for us athletes, just seeing how he comes to practice, so positive. Like, I mean, he's working some crazy hours some days, and dude doesn't sleep very good. So he just shows up, just such a positive guy. And yeah, just what Sil said, you kind of just step on that line, just like, well, I mean, if I trust this guy basically with my life, so I can trust he got me fit enough. He believes I should be at this spot, like in a race. Like he says, like, go out top 35. It's like, I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to do it because Med said so. Basically, just so much trust.
He is like pretty crazy accurate with his race plans. Like he guessed to the exact second like what average pace I'd run at regionals.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Sixth sense type stuff right there.
For sure.
And he's also been able to bring in a new assistant this year, Coach Maggie Davis. What has she brought to the program?
I think her coming from D1 at Iowa State, she's really brought like another level of intensity, which I think is really good. And she just has high standards where you come to practice and like, she expects the best out of you, which really helps you grow as an athlete.
I think it's nice having just a different personality on the coaching staff, because obviously Med is awesome in a lot of ways, but some ways maybe not so much. But then Maggie, same thing. I mean, people are people. We're different, right? So personality is way different. Maybe awesome in some ways, not so awesome in some ways, but it's just nice having that blend on a coaching staff. It's where different situation comes up, you've got two people to kind of cover it.
Yeah, the two different personalities kind of fit and
Yes.
work well with each other, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
So your team has a really interesting tradition. Every year, as a part of your preseason, you go on a team bonding camping trip. What's that experience like, and what do you think the team gets out of it as a whole?
Oh, yeah, so we head up to the Bighorns at one of our teammates' cabins. His dad's crazy enough to invite the whole cross-country team up, and so we just hang out there. But, man, I think just because that's second week of practice of, like, freshmen coming in, these new freshmen, new to college, new to the team, I think just spending that extended time together where you really can't get away from each other is super helpful for, like, team culture, just getting to know people. Because I feel like if we didn't do that, you could very easily just stay in your dorm, show up to practice, go back to your dorm, and never really see each other outside of practice. So I think it sets a good tone for the rest of the year, just being able to just get to know each other outside of practice. Like, we're not just runners, like we're people too, and we have these relationships with each other.
Mm-hmm. And I'd say like this year it was super windy, so we all ended up moving inside at like 2 a.m. So we're all just so tired the next day, but that brought us together, I think, because everyone crushed their workout. I was worried we'd all just be like, oh, I'm too tired, like it's not going to go well, but just those like shared experiences from like week 1 where it's like, hey, remember at camp when we were all like tired and that kind of stuff.
Like the shared misery of waking up the next morning, just like, hey, how'd you sleep?
Like, are you feeling terrible too? Like, yeah.
Yeah, if you can push through that and you can get through that, then I don't know, national championship means is a piece of cake. And
Everything
we'll
helps.
to that.
Everything helps.
Yeah.
Now, cross country is a really unique sport, and one reason is that it's so fundamentally individual, and yet it's still a team sport. And I imagine that presents some leadership difficulties for you as upperclassmen and leaders on your teams. How do you approach the leadership aspect to some of these younger teammates who are adjusting to the college level, with it being such an individual type of sport?
I think I try and just look at it as like a team sport all the time. But then, yeah, you get to meets like regionals where it's like I'm trying to qualify as an individual. So, like, just the balance of leading them well, but also doing what I need to do. And the women's team is unique because, like, how it all shaped up is we had me and 4 freshmen on at regionals. So they're just trying to gain experience pretty much. So I just tell them, like, for every race, like, be confident, be tough, like, I'm proud of you. Then just kind of keep it simple, honestly.
Yeah, kind of in the same way. Obviously, like, we're both seniors on the team, so just kind of been put in that leadership position. But, yeah, I think before races, I think I end up telling the guys, like, at some point, like, you got to run for something bigger than yourself to get through those those middle Ks, those last 2Ks, you got to be running for something bigger than yourself. So I think obviously for then me trying to run like individually well, I think I can look at it as a team sport and be like, man, if those guys behind me are running well, like for me, like why would I run any worse? Like they're kind of pushing me forward. So yeah, it is very individual, but I would say kind of along the same lines as Sil. Kind of just look at it as a team sport, and like we're kind of all in this together. No matter last guy on the team, first guy on the team, at some point we're all gonna hit that point in the race where it's like, man, am I gonna quit or am I gonna keep pushing? And hopefully in our mind, keep pushing for the team, because that's a lot easier to do than just push for myself.
That's interesting. And another thing that makes it very unique is, especially at this level, all of your preparation is for that regional meet. And you'll train a little bit different in preparation for that. So, for instance, Tim, you didn't compete at the RMAC Championship meet. You instead ran at the Lancer Invitational over in Aberdeen. Kind of walk us through that decision-making process to go and compete in that race.
Yeah, I think it all started last year after regionals. I did not finish the regional race at Denver. I passed out. So I think being at elevation is what did it. Coach is like, we're not going to take you to elevation next year, because in the big picture, really conference doesn't really mean a whole lot. I mean, for a team like BH, we're not shooting for a top 3 performance. It's just not, at least this year, not plausible. So really, because what ended up happening last year is we went to conference in Durango, yes. So high elevation, I had a pretty rough race hitting oxygen debt. So the last 2K, I was kind of just running on empty. So then fast forward 2 weeks, we get to regionals, and I just hit a point where I start blacking out, and I eventually just hit the ground, and coach is like, yeah, you did not recover well enough from conference. Like that oxygen jet was still in your system after 2 weeks. She's like, we're not even gonna try at conference. Like you're gonna go to a different meet, a road race, or anything besides going to elevation, where you're gonna get that crap into your system for regionals. So went to the Lancer Invite. Obviously not great competition. It was kind of a glorified tempo in a way, but still there's something to be said for mentally driving to a race, having a pre-meet there, getting on the line with other people, even if it's not quite the same competition as we're used to racing, but just being in that mental of, I can race. Like I've raced 2 weeks ago instead of I've raced a month ago. I'm kind of out of it. So that was kind of the thought behind it. Just be ready for regionals.
That's interesting. And because of the emphasis on that regional race, how do you keep yourself mentally, kind of keeping your eyes on the ultimate prize and on that competition throughout such a long season?
I think just always having like nationals in my head, like on hard workouts when I wanted to kind of like wimp out of it, just be like, if I want to go to nationals, like I got to be tough here. And even just throughout the year, like it's nice to kind of have the other meets be not as stressful. Like before Billings, I threw up because I got pretty nervous like before the race, and coach comes up and is like, it's not regionals, like you don't have to kill yourself, like it's fine. And then even at the regional meet being like, this one's gonna hurt like really bad, but coach hasn't asked me to really like completely 100% push it till today. So like having one effort kind of like simplifies the season, honestly.
Yeah, and I think in the same boat as Sil, just the races previous, Med's like, it's not regionals. Like you don't have to have this amazing effort. Like it's just GRIAC, it's just Billings. And in a way, obviously for the guys, it switches to 10K when we get to regionals, so it's a little bit harder. Just kind of getting on that line, like, man, I haven't ran a 10K in basically a year, so I'm not 100% in it. But yeah, just having those other efforts where it's not like we raced really well on not 100% race effort. So you get to that day, it's like, this is 100%. Like I've really got nothing to hold back for. Like let's just get it done.
And one more before we get into the juicy stuff, the most recent stuff. Tim, you alluded to it. The South Central region it's a very competitive region. The RMAC's a very competitive conference in cross country. Several nationally ranked top 10 schools in the national rankings. Yeah. So what's it like being a part of such a competitive region and such a competitive conference?
Man, some days it's tough just thinking, like obviously we got 14th at regionals. So it's like, dang, we're still quite a ways back. But then you look at where those 13 teams are going to go. Just a lot of them, 9 on the guys' side went to nationals. And so some days it's like, I wish we were part of some other region where we're getting top 3 basically on any effort, any day at regionals or conference or whatever. But I think if that was true, we wouldn't be as good as we are. We wouldn't get a coach probably like Med. And without that competition, really we'd probably just get complacent. Like, we're getting first, second, third. Like, this is sweet. Where you go to nationals and then you're getting 32nd at nationals. It's like, what does that really mean? We're going to nationals, but really at what cost? Like, we're not as good as we can be. And if that's what we're trying to be at this sport, be our 100% and just lay all the effort out we can, I think we'd be at kind of I don't want to say a disadvantage being in those other ones, but we really just wouldn't, I don't know, it sounds cliche, but just be our full potential. So I think it's not super fun being in the hardest one, but man, when like we can compete and go to nationals, like that's really when it's worth it. Like, we're in the hardest region in running, and we made it into nationals.
That's what I was gonna say. Is just like when you do accomplish like things like all conference, all region, like qualifying for nationals, I think, yeah, it means a lot more because you're like, this is the best of the best. Like, people joke they're like second team all RMAC is first team all American is like the saying. So it's like, you can compete with the RMAC, like you're up there at the top.
There's definitely some truth to that, and now we'll get into that, the national meet. I definitely buried the lead, in this episode here, but on the topic of the regional race, you both had outstanding showings at the South Central Regionals over the weekend, PR times in the 10 and the 6K respectively. Sylvia, you earned all region honors for the first time in your career, finishing 22nd overall. What was going through your mind as you crossed the finish line? Did you realize you had such a strong race and did well enough to get all region, or did you find out later?
I kind of found out later because most of the race I was hanging out around like 30th, which was stressful because I knew that wasn't going to like cut it early. But with about 900 to go, Coach Davis was there like, come on, find another gear. So I did that. I had no clue how many people I passed because I was basically looking at which individuals I needed to beat. Because going into the meet, like I knew exactly who I'd have to beat. And then I got those girls and was like, that should be like enough to get all region, but I wasn't really sure. And then found like my parents and they're like, you got 22nd because they were counting. So it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. And Tim, you just missed the cut for all region yourself, but still a PR, finished in the top 30, and as we mentioned, a really difficult region. What was going through your mind as you completed the race?
I think in a way I had just passed the MSU Denver guy like last 50 meters. And same as Sil, like I knew kind of who the individuals were, where I had to be to have a shot at nationals. So I passed that guy and I was feeling awesome. I thought that was the only guy I had to pass, but then there ended up being another MSU Denver guy ahead of me that I hadn't seen. But on the line, I was feeling great. I mean, obviously, I'm not feeling great. I just ran a 10K so on the ground, but I think I was just happy. It was one of those races where I didn't feel like, man, I should have pushed harder in the middle. It's one of those races where, like, really, if I go to nationals, if I don't go to nationals, I think I just ran, like, basically the best effort I could have. So just very, very happy with how it went, and I don't know, really just kind of just amazed. Like, it's always weird looking back and just like, wow, we really just did that. Mm-hmm. Like another PR, like 29th in the region. Like, it's so wild that it just happened.
That's outstanding. And then after you finished the race came the quote-unquote fun part, right? The waiting game for each of you because you didn't get a team berth to the national meet. It's a very interesting process. I've discussed it a little bit about it with Coach Medigovich, but you are both a lot more knowledgeable about it. So kind of walk us through that selection process for the national championship meet.
So they take 3 teams out of every region and then 2 individuals for sure, like who aren't going with their team. So you're kind of just looking at which teams will make it where their runners are, like, because if you go on the results, it has, like, what place each of their runners got. So you're looking at, like, okay, if this team didn't go, their first place person was in, like, 18th or whatever. Like, I got 22nd, so if they go, I'm the second individual, like, that type of stuff. Just, like, all depends on which teams go and where you end up as an individual.
Yeah, so for, like, in my case, I was without, like, any teams going, or, yeah, so we'll just say, like, six teams went. I'm the fourth individual. There's a Highlands guy, a Pueblo guy, MSU Denver guy ahead of me. So I'm the fourth individual. But then they end up taking 9 teams, which means Highlands goes, Pueblo goes. So that moves the Highlands guy out of the way, Pueblo guy out of the way. So there's only one Denver guy ahead of me. So Denver, me, Denver ended up going. So 3 of us individuals went. And you just get scooted up the line basically if those teams went, and they took 9, so I ended up being just the second individual.
Yeah, and Sylvia, in discussions with Coach Medigovich, he felt very strongly that you would earn a berth to the national championship meet based on, the teams that were projected to go and the finishes. So what was that waiting process like for you, and what was your reaction when you got the word that you were officially in?
It was still, like, pretty stressful just because you never really know. So it's like, Coach and I were in the office talking about the trip, and it kind of felt weird because it's like, what if I don't make it? And we've already, like, talked about our plans. So I was definitely really relieved to finally see it for sure. And then I was also a little stressed for Timmy too. So just all of Monday was like, I was just refreshing the NCAA page, like, waiting to see.
Yeah, Sylvia, you were stressed for Tim. Tim, you had a really stressful 48-ish hours because your situation was a little bit different. As Coach Medigovich was talking to me, he said you were a little bit more on the fence about whether you may make the cut or not. So what were those 48 hours like from the end of the regional meet to that announcement, and what was your reaction?
Man, I think, like I said, I ran probably the best race I probably could have. So just kind of in my head, I was like, well, it's either going to happen or it's not. Like, I'm happy with how the regional race went. If I don't go, it wasn't meant to be. If I do go, like, wow, that's crazy. Like, honestly, praise God, because I think it was a miracle, honestly. Like, they took 9 teams and then 3 individuals.
Unheard of.
Unheard of, really. So, yeah, Monday rolls around. We're going to practice because we don't know if we're going to nationals. So I've got this 14-mile run, and it's kind of miserable. And the whole time I'm just like, I'm not even going to make nationals. Like, why am I doing this? Like, this is kind of brutal. So when I get back to the car, Sil and Med are already there. And I'm like, they haven't said anything. Like, I know they've checked. Like, they aren't saying anything. I'm like, oh, no. And Sil's like, you made it. And, yeah, I hugged Sil, shed a few tears. I'm just like, this is so unreal. Just kind of a storybook ending for my last season, just going to nationals with Sil.
For sure.
That's awesome. And now comes the training for that national meet for each of you. As most of your teammates are kind of taking some time to rest and recover ahead of the indoor season, you both have 2 more weeks of training before heading to Joplin, Missouri for that national meet. So how are you going about it, preparing both mentally and physically?
Physically, kind of just staying in the same routine of sleeping a lot, eating well, just going to the training room when you have to, and mentally just trying to take it all in, enjoy it. Like, it's kind of less nerve-wracking than going into the regional meet because, like, at this point we've made it. So just getting excited about it and just ready to put one more good effort out there.
Yeah, I think just getting, like, especially this week, maybe get a few good workouts in. But I mean, at some point, the hay's already in the barn. Like, there's really nothing we can do to get any better at this point. But there's a lot of things we can do to screw it up. Yeah. So I think just getting, good sleep, just staying on top of it, even though, I mean, nationals is this huge, like, honor. But like Sil said, it's not this make or break meet. Like, we already made it. It's not regionals where you have to make the cut. So I think just enjoying it, and just taking it all in.
Absolutely. We'll roll into some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
What is the favorite course you've run at?
Probably Golden, Colorado, RMAC championships back in 2021.
I would say pre-nationals in Seattle.
Nice. If you could compete in any other sport collegiately besides track and field and cross country, what would it be?
Probably soccer.
I was going to say soccer. Yeah, just a lot of running.
Makes sense. Yeah. What is your favorite place to eat in Spearfish?
I think Killian's.
I would also say Killian's. Yep, some good burgers.
Killian's is really good. Yeah, their burgers are second to none here in
Yes.
town for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any race day superstitions? Or if you don't, what is the weirdest one you've seen someone else have?
I feel like mine is pretty basic. I just like always wear the same socks, even though they got holes in them now. But I'm like, worn these for 4 years. I can't give them up.
If it works, right?
Yeah.
For real. I think for me, not wearing my watch, I don't know if it's much of a superstition. I just hate seeing like mile times in a race because mentally it's just like, just go race. Like, why are you worried about how fast you're going?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And finally, what is one thing that most people don't know about you?
I guess that I've never dyed my hair. It's just naturally like this.
For the people on the podcast, she has a blonde streak.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people don't know I got married July 2022.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Fantastic. Hey, Sylvia, Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Until next time, I'm your host, Bryce Johnson, for Jacket Chats.